Continuing from the previous episode 1740. Boom! The deafening voice resounded throughout the desert hinterland like the wrath of a god. As the two methods were exhausted, the entire desert hinterland was completely shrouded in the heaven-devouring divine realm of the Lord of Soul Eater. Countless black incantations permeated the divine realm, setting off the body of the Lord of Soul Eater like a real god, which could not be shaken. At the same time, around the Lord of Soul Eater, a blade all outlined by black incantations burst out with bursts of supreme might that devoured the sky and devoured the earth, quietly crawling beside him. Crash! On the other side, the body of the Master of the Soul turned into a stream of light, holding the evil soldier's soul-destroying sword, and in a world-destroying attitude, he stabbed the Master of the Soul Eater, and wherever he passed along the way, those black curses was actually completely obliterated by him, and even the domain space of swallowing the gods was blocked by him. Go! With a flick of the main song of Soul Eater, the black blade made up of the source power of Soul Eater also burst out with a supremely gloomy aura, and shot directly at the Lord of Soul. Ha ha ha! Master of Soul Eater, the grievances between us for many years, let's understand. Fall for me! With a loud shout, the blood of the Lord of Li Soul appeared all over his body, and all of them were poured into the soul-killing sword. At that time, the soul-killing sword seemed to be pulled, and the bright *** aura spewed out like a spring, and immediately in an instant, it turned into 1,000 Zhang blood-colored sword light, and it vaguely carried a powerful aura that destroyed the world. Boom! The two attacked in an instant, and then an explosion resounded throughout the sky, spreading completely. Crash! The black and blood-colored energy, centered on the heaven-swallowing god territory, completely turned into ripples of destructive energy, blasting away at the desert hinterland, and even some hills above the desert hinterland. After touching it, it instantly disappears. Crack! With a sound, Tiantian divine realm was completely shattered, and the sky returned to its original color, but the messy sky at this time revealed a gloom, obviously already riddled with holes. Finally, it's over. Slowly holding the Xian evil soldier's soul-destroyer sword, the Lord of Li Soul stood quietly in the clouds, watching the heaven-devouring god territory completely shattered, and even the breath of the Soul Eater was sluggish. Whispered, I have planned for such a long time, although I have paid a very painful price, but everything is worth it. Because he not only harvested many holy flames in Xiaoyan's body, but also the soul-devouring talisman of soul-devouring domain and one of the evil soldiers, such a rewarding battle made the Master of Li Soul can't help laughing wildly. Not to mention the many holy flames in Xiaoyan's body, plus the Soul Eater talisman number 11 on the evil soldier ranking, this time, the Master of Soul Li himself is the biggest winner. From now on, the Master of Soul Li will completely take over the soul-devouring realm, and the Master of Soul Li will control the two largest areas in the ghost world. With time, even the center of the ghost realm with the most powerful posture will completely bow down. At your own feet. Thinking of this, the Lord of Li Soul was shocked. Ding ding! Just as the Lord of Li Soul secretly rejoiced, a magical sound that penetrated the heavens and the earth slowly spread out. Gu Long. With a tremor from the demonic sound, the Lord of Li Soul only felt that his body could not help but froze, and even his soul fell into a brief out of control. Lord Li Soul, it's too early to say when now. But as soon as the voice fell, the ripples of destruction dissipated, and a strong man holding a blood-colored bell slowly stood at the top of the sky. Master of Soul Eater? You're not dead? How is that possible? Seeing the Lord of Soul Eater standing unscathed in the clouds, a shock emerged from the eyes of Lord Li Soul. How tyrannical the Soul Destroyer is, and the Master of Li Soul, just in case, did not hesitate to spend his own blood to cast his soul blade. The powerful blow under such a heavy blow did not obliterate the Master of Soul Eater, or even unscathed. This made Lord Li Soul's heart involuntarily become vigilant. The Lord of Soul Li stared at the past, only to see that on the palm of the Lord of Soul Eater at this time, a small bell that had already turned red slowly emerged, and a red protective cover was all over his body, protecting the Lord of Soul Eater like a sky curtain. And even the Xian attack of his own Soul Destroyer just dented the red cover without any damage. That's. After a brief moment of surprise, Lord Li Soul's expression was attracted by a blood-colored shackle around the Lord of Soul Eater. Above this blood-colored shackle, There is an extremely powerful and sinister power. Under this power, even the soul-destroying knife is slightly inferior. And this power, all of which emerged from the red bell. Another evil soldier? How is that possible? Seeing that the small bell actually made his heart tremble, the Lord of Li's soul said tremblingly. There are a total of 12 evil soldiers in the ghost world, each of which contains unpredictable supreme power, and although the Soul Eater talisman is only ranked 11th, in the hands of the Soul Eater Lord, it is enough. It was on a par with the top 9 evil soldiers, and even so, there was still a big gap between him and the 7th-ranked Soul Killer, so Li Hun felt that he would definitely win this time. But at this time, the small red bell in the Lord of Soul Eater's hand is also an evil soldier, and judging from the red defensive cover and shackles that resist the attack of his own Soul Killer, the 7th-ranked Soul Killer is more powerful. This is the Blood River Bell. The Lord of Soul Eater waved casually, dispersing the defensive cover and red shackles around him, and looked at the Lord of Li's soul indifferently. The 6th-ranked Blood River Bell? How could it be possible? At this moment, Master Li's expression finally became unbearable. He knew that he was also a reincarnation. If the Lord of Soul Eater used the power of 2 evil soldiers at the same time, he would be the only one. Only after stepping into the first level of shock can he completely defeat him, otherwise his end will be self-destruction. Ended. You have done a lot of evil. Let's end these grievances with your fall today. After a while, on the hands of the Lord of Soul Eater, the red Blood River Bells and the black Soul Eater talismans emerged together. A terrifying power that can make everything pale. Don't think that if you have 2 evil soldiers, you can obliterate me. Wan's Soul Technique, the Blood Soul of the Sky. At this moment, Li Hun's heart finally filled with a trace of fear. If Soul Eater really let Soul Eater take the initiative to use the 2 evil soldiers, he would have only one way to perish. Boom! As soon as the voice fell, the Master of Li's soul suddenly laughed violently, and the soul-destroying knife in his hand burst out with dazzling blood. The Lord didn't hesitate too much. The soul-killing saber suddenly went towards his wrist. The wrist was cut by it, the blood flowed, and the scarlet blood was directly absorbed by the soul-killing saber. Hey! The soul-killing blade absorbed such a huge blood power, and suddenly an illusory evil shadow suddenly emerged from its blade, and immediately suspended above the head of the Master Li's soul, holding the soul-killing soul that exudes endless blood radiance. The knife, like a real ghost descending, is extremely gloomy. Die! Seeing Lord Li's actions, Lord Soul Eater suddenly folded his palms, and Shui He Ling burst out with a crisp sound. Adding the black lines of Soul Eater talisman, in an instant, the entire sky was surrounded by countless ghosts. Soul creatures completely paved the way. At this moment, tens of thousands of spooky ghosts and soul holy spirits quietly crawl at the feet of the Lord of Soul Eater. It is on the body, engraved with the black incantation of the Soul Eater talisman, even on the bell of the Blood River Bell. Down, there is endless killing intent in the pupils. They humbly bow at the feet of the Soul Eater, like their most respected king. At this moment, the divine might is like fire, and the Lord of Soul Eater is the strongest ruler in this world. As for the Lord of Li's soul, he is somewhat dispensable, like a supporting role. Continuing from the previous episode 1741, Blade of Ghosts and Gods, Sword of Soul Destruction. Looking at the terrifying battle of the Lord of Soul Eater, the Lord of Li's soul could clearly feel the rapid loss of energy between heaven and earth, and even had a very strong rejection of himself. Time roared directly. Following the opening of the Lord of Souls, the ghost-like complexion on the top of his head slowly appeared, and then he gently raised the soul-destroying knife covered with blood, and gently waved it towards the Lord of Soul Eater. At this moment, the Lord of Soul Li had a grim face, his pupils were full of blood, and blood was still pouring into the ghosts and gods at his wrist. This attack by the Soul Lord, his 1,000-year plan, was destroyed in one fell swoop. Absorbing so much blood from the source, the ghost and asterisk phantom palm swelled up suddenly, and in a short period of time, it became 1,000 feet in size. The palm shook, the ghost and asterisk phantom directly separated from the master of the soul, and the soul annihilation knife in his hand pierced the sky. Under the horrified eyes of everyone, he blasted away at the Lord of Soul Eater. Such a sharp and terrifying attack, I am afraid that the reincarnation-level powerhouse can only temporarily avoid its edge. Looking at the huge phantom that looks like a ghost and a god, and the energy and blood glow of the 1,000 Zhang soul-killing knife, the Lord of Soul Eater smiled casually, and the voice of the master fell, piercing the entire sky, the entire sky. This seat uses the Blood River Bell, the power of the soul-devouring talisman. Number 10,000 souls, drive 1,000 souls. Together to slay the demons. The voice was like a Sanskrit sound, transmitted over every inch of the yellow sand in the desert hinterland, bringing with it countless terrifying powers. Wang hum, as the voice of the Soul Eater fell, the countless ghosts that were quietly crawling under his feet, on top of the illusory body, burst into red glows from both eyes, and the black incantations all over the body kept squirming. The body trembled, and it turned out to be shot directly at the ghosts and gods. The power of the countless ghosts and ghosts is the power of Shuiheling. Shuiheling collected countless tyrannical ghosts and left them in a special way to form their most tyrannical attack. When, the terrifying power that is enough to devour all things, this mighty ghost world army is enough to tear apart any army or even obliterate the powerhouse of Samsara. Gulagulu, for a time, the sky was surging, and countless clouds retreated, as if they were afraid that the two would destroy the sky and destroy the earth and attack him. Clang clang clang. Hey! The Blood River Bell in the hands of the Lord of Soul Eater broke out with a very clear sound, but every time this sound sounded, the power of the entire ghost army would skyrocket. As for the black incantation emitted by every shake of the Soul Eater talisman, all injected into the army of ghosts. Rumbling, the terrifying confrontation storm came quietly at a certain moment. In the sky, a crazy asterisk aura spread completely, and the defensive cover of everyone below and the yellow sand above the desert instantly turned into nothingness, and a touch of depression appeared in everyone's heart. Destroying the sky and destroying the earth, even the precious treasure land in the desert hinterland, completely collapsed at this moment. The sky turned into countless fragments like a broken mirror, and for a while, above the desert below, it turned into countless abyss. For conspicuous, the two reincarnation-level powerhouses completely collapsed the space. After a few minutes, the explosion and fluctuations in the sky slowly dissipated, and countless ghosts were returning to the Lord of Soul Eater. Although they were scarred, but as long as he returns to the Blood Pond Bell, it will not be long before he will regain his peak. On the other hand, on the other side of the sky, there was a figure with a very sluggish breath and red blood all over his body. He looked slightly embarrassed. He climbed up from the blood cloud under his feet with difficulty, staring at the Lord of Soul Eater with resentment. The Lord of Soul Eater was swallowed alive. You lost. After a while, the Soul Eater said softly, "Ha ha ha, Master of Soul Eater, although you defeated me today, you couldn't kill me. I will recover my strength in the future, and I will bring back all the shame today." Seeing the indifferent appearance of the Lord of Soul Eater, the Lord of Li Soul laughed violently. "Teacher, don't let him go. Master, this is the culprit who has caused countless killings to our soul-devouring domain. We can't let him go." Seeing victory in sight, eager voices fell one after another. It seems that there are some familiar fluctuations. Xiao Yan did not speak, but stared at the void that began to run. It seemed that there was already a familiar aura here, and he slowly submerged. "Are you so confident? Do you think I dare not kill you?" The Lord of Soul Eater ignored the smile of Lord Li's soul, and walked towards the cloud of blood that Lord Li's soul stood. On the palm of the hand, the Blood River Bell and the Soul Eater realm turned together, pushing the breath of the Soul Eater to the peak. On the other hand, the Li Soul Lord was like a dying person, with a sluggish breath and blood on the body. Power in battle. We are personally appointed by the adults in the center of the ghost world. If you kill me, I'm afraid. The Lord of Li's soul leaned on him and said with a smile. The center of the ghost world. Is the ghost world even the realm where the supreme being of the great thousand worlds exists? However, what kind of place is that? You, a dying person, are also worthy of mentioning it to me? Die. The center of the ghost world. This seat has not been placed in my eyes. Hearing that the Lord of Li's soul was still so threatening when he was about to die, Soul Eater raised his hands, and the two evil soldiers burst out with a death beam, facing Li Soul's the master blasted away. Looking at the appearance, it is astonishingly the last killer, trying to really obliterate the Lord of Li's soul. No, the Lord of Souls tried to struggle to move his body, and immediately swayed his severely damaged body, trying to avoid the devastating blow of the Lord of Soul Eater, but found that he was only doing useless work, and immediately his eyes were hideous, in his pupils revealing a sense of unwillingness, looking at the Lord of Soul Eater. Zhu! The light of death bursting out from the two evil soldiers shook slightly and shot towards the Lord of Li's soul. If it was hit, the Lord of Li's soul would be seriously injured. Only the bones are left, and even the soul will be completely obliterated by it. Sorry, you can't kill him. Just when the Lord of Li's soul had given up his struggle, his eyes were closed and he was quietly waiting for death. A lonely figure wearing a black cloak covering his face slowly collapsed from the ground. Stepping out of the void, the slender jade hand immediately grasped the death-like light, and the death light, which was enough to destroy all things, was quietly destroyed, and it did not even bring any power. Feier, I don't feel sorry for you. At this moment, Lord Li Hun opened his pupils without a face, but he said helplessly. You don't need to look to know who is shooting now. He has been using Duo Qifei from the beginning to the end, using the power of reincarnation on her body, and even the power of the Thunderlord, to seal the entire Li Soul realm, so that the outsiders cannot sense the scenes that are happening here. The relationship with Xiaoyan was deliberately designed by Leishan to imprison Du Qifei. In the end, it was only for his own path of reincarnation, for the holy flame of Xiaoyan, and for his own selfishness. He is ashamed of Du Qifei. He is not worthy to be the master of this domain, and he is not worthy to be Du Qifei's uncle. It's actually the power of reincarnation. The Soul Eater Lord had just mobilized the power of the two evil soldiers several times, and now the fighting chi in his body was already close to withering. At this time, a reincarnation-level powerhouse appeared in Du, and he slowly shook his head. If this reincarnation powerhouse insists on protecting the Lord of Li Soul today, I am afraid that the Lord of Li Soul will not fall today. After all, many of the Lord of Soul Eater's subordinates are in the Lord of Li Soul at this time. It is not very good for Li's soul domain and soul devouring domain. At this moment, the situation that had already been fixed has actually changed again, but the overall situation has been decided, and I don't know what the final result will be. Opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis. Continuing from the previous episode 1743. What's going on? In the collapsed desert hinterland, pieces of debris kept falling off, as if it would explode completely at any time. At this time, the three strong men stood in the clouds, and even the power on them was reincarnation. But when this black-clothed figure just appeared, Xiaoyan couldn't help trembling in his heart. Obviously, this guy's breath seemed to make him feel familiar. After a while, Xiaoyan couldn't hold back the impulse in his heart, his body trembled, and he went straight to the sky. He wanted to confirm his conjecture. Little junior brother? What are you doing? Hao Nier was shocked when he saw this. He was just about to stop Xiaoyan, but he was stopped by Yu Ur and Heishan Longling. Let him go, that guy, he should have something to do with him. Heishan Longling shook his head helplessly. After all, when he passed through the red reincarnation zone in the center of the temple, he noticed this guy's breath, but this guy didn't. He took action against Xiaoyan, and even took the initiative to clarify the threat of the two Thunder Mountains, so the Black Devil Dragon Wolf concluded that he must have something to do with the guy in front of him. Your Excellency, this is a matter between my Soul Eater domain and Li's Soul domain. After a short stalemate above the sky, the Soul Eater Lord slightly restrained the aura of the two evil soldiers, with a steady tone. I know this is about your second domain. I didn't want to interfere, but this guy and I have a difficult relationship. I don't want him to die. Black-clothed Qianying said apologetically. Impossible, this guy is doing a lot of evil. If he doesn't completely kill him today, I'm afraid he will become a murderous demon in the future. After all, he can use the life of his subordinates to pay homage to his own path of reincarnation. This alone is an unforgivable sin. The Lord of Soul Eater immediately snorted when he heard the words. With me, he can't die. Of course the evil he does will pay the price, but sin does not lead to death. On the contrary, if you want any compensation, just speak up. The premise is that he doesn't die. Qianying in black also seemed to see a small figure flying towards her from the abyss in front of her. Her tones softened a little, and her heart could not help beating violently. When the two of them meet again, it is really good fortune that they will be in this way. You, the Lord of Soul Eater, heard the words, and immediately became furious. If it wasn't for the fear of the mysterious reincarnation powerhouse and the subordinates behind Xinxian, the Lord of Soul Eater might have already fought with him. Teacher. Just when Soul Eater was at a loss, Xiao Yan's figure came to Soul Eater's side. Why are you here? Come down. Seeing Xiao Yan coming here, the Soul Eater couldn't help shouting. A reincarnation-level powerhouse could not be shaken by him. Teacher, the Second World War is over. Put these things away, and leave the rest to me. Xiao Yan smiled slowly, but Soul Eater's eyes were flickering. He just wanted to refute Xiao Yan, but seeing the firm look in his pupils, he helplessly said. In the end, he could only choose to believe in Xiao Yan. After all, he was already in a state of exhaustion at this time, and it was useless to forcefully support him. If something happens to him, I will stop at nothing to destroy all of Li Soul territory. He said viciously, and the Soul Eater immediately dismissed the countless ghosts around him, lowered his body, and converged towards the troops below. For a time, in the sky, there were only the three people left standing above the blood cloud like a dying person, the Lord of Li Soul, Qianying in black, and Xiao Yan. Hoo! Xiao Yan's eyes became deep, and he glanced at the embarrassed Soul Master behind him with resentment, and then he was watching the black-clothed figure. Qifei, a soft voice, but it contained endless deep meaning, swept out. Stretch. In an instant, the delicate body of Qianying in black suddenly shrank and trembled. Xiao Yan, I haven't seen you for a long time. After a while, the slender jade hand directly took off the black clothes from his body, revealing his original appearance, and a light voice sounded slowly. Forge Qifei. At this time, she has changed a lot from the past. Clear and bright pupils, curved eyebrows, long eyelashes trembling slightly, flawless skin like a baby, silver hair falling vertically like a waterfall, even above the silver hair, a trace of gray thunder, flowing slowly, set off its temperament like a fairy left behind by an angel. Are you all right? Looking at the fairy who was enough to make everything pale in front of him, Xiao Yan took a long time to hold back a sentence. I'm still me. Seemingly aware of Xiao Yan's concerns, Qifei smiled sweetly and said. You. Xiao Yan's body suddenly shook after hearing Qifei's words. But he's my uncle. My mother died early when I was young, and my father brought me up. Even though he treated me badly, the relationship between bloodlines. Do you understand? And this is also my mother's last wish before she died. Qifei's beautiful eyes flickered slightly, and she turned her head away, as if she didn't want Xiao Yan to notice the tears and sorrow in the corners of her eyes. Cough cough. Mayfair, thank you very much. When I reply, Li Soul territory will be handed over to you. When the time comes, you and I will join forces to eat Soul Eater territory. What is it? Su. Hearing Duo Qifei's words, the Master of Soul Li smiled. As long as he doesn't die today, he will have a chance to make a comeback in the future. 2 conditions. Seemingly making a lot of determination, Xiao Yan slowly stretched out *** and said to Duo Qifei, who turned his back. Duan Qifei felt relieved when she heard Xiao Yan's words. She was most afraid that Xiao Yan would not know how to change, and she must kill the Master of Li Soul. At that time, I'm afraid that she and Xiao Yan could only make a complete break. Even if Duo Qifei knew that it was impossible for him and Xiao Yan to have a result, but if they were still friends, they could maintain a good relationship. First, I need acacia and broken enteritis. Xiao Yan said calmly, apparently taking Du Qifei into consideration, and making such a step backward. Ha, you are dreaming. The acacia broken enteritis has been completely swallowed by me. If you want this holy flame, go dream. Ha. No. Hearing Xiao Yan's incredible condition, the Master of Li Soul laughed hideously, but before the laughter fell, a giant hand of energy entwined with countless gray thunder patterns easily pierced through his chest. Then the pink flames and pink holy flame crystals will be completely deprived of his body by his giant thunder pattern hands. Acacia flame has been swallowed by himself, and now it has been directly deprived by Duo Qifei. The eyes of the Lord of Li Soul are filled with bloodshot, and the pain is unbearable. Even because of the loss of holy flame, the power has also fallen from the realm of reincarnation. At the point of half reincarnation, the source is damaged, and I am afraid that I will not be able to advance to reincarnation in the future. Secondly, the Lord of Li Soul, he must not be in charge of Li Soul domain forever. Xiao Yan's pupil slowly shook his head. This was already the biggest concession he made. I promise you. Come here. Send the Lord of Li's soul to the Forest of Shadows, and never take a step. And as Qifei's voice fell, the void was squirming, and an extremely tyrannical breath emerged. These guys are extremely familiar to the Lord of Li's soul, because they are all high-level people in Li's soul domain, the masters of the 4 major temples, and the powerhouses in charge of many martial arts. Looking at their humble attitude, they actually betrayed themselves and all surrendered to Qifei. It's no wonder that when the Wumong Blood Soul formation was launched, the other 3 temples were not affected by the powerhouses. It turned out, their demons have betrayed. Moreover, the so-called Forest of Shadows is a barren land, and it is the area where the prisoners are imprisoned in the Li Soul territory. Once they enter, they will never leave. Lord, the Lord of Li's soul belongs, he has surrendered, and those who disobeyed have been beheaded. He is just around the corner to rule Li Soul territory, but now Li Soul territory's vitality is severely damaged, and the powerhouses of Soul Eater territory are constantly attacking, you see? For a time, the master of the North Temple was the first to speak. Now that Li Hanyu has everything in my hands, I will completely control it. In the future, Li Soul territory will not do anything beyond the bounds of soul-devouring territory. Let your people discuss the rest of the compensation. I will draw out the guardian power of the Earth Spirit Academy and give you a year to cultivate. Let you safely return to Soul Eater domain. I'm tired. Let's go. Duo Qifei finished speaking, ignoring Xiao Yan and the top executives of the Soul Eater domain, shaking in the void and disappearing here. Bai Zi, instructed to go on, gather the army, withdraw to the Earth Spiritual Academy, rest for several months, and set off to return to the soul-devouring domain. Ni the rest of the compensation matters, Ni go to discuss with her. Gone. The war between the 2 domains, let's end it like this. The Lord of Soul Eater shook his head slightly. Qifei, thank you. Xiao Yan held Acacia Broken Enteric Inflammation and Saint Yanjing in his hands, and bowed slowly to the void where Duan Qifei disappeared, and then completely dissipated here. As the crowd dissipated, the desert hinterland was finally unable to support it, and the sound of Peng exploded completely, and this 2-domain war was completely over, except for some minor things. This trip to the ghost world was also completely successful. Opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis. Continuing from the previous episode 1744. Several months have passed since the Second World War. One day, one of the 5 major courtyards in Li Soul domain, one of the courtyards of Earth Spirit Academy. It's natural to be leisurely. In the courtyard, Xiao Yan stood quietly on a pavilion, drinking tea alone. Since the end of the Second Domain War, this place has become a cultivation place for many strong people in the Soul Eater domain, and Xiao Yan's power, with the help of this battle, has naturally broken through the late 5-star fighting immortals. With Acacia and Broken Enteritis, stepping into the 6-star fighting immortal is just around the corner. However, Acacia Broken Enteritis was to revive Mu Yingying, so Xiao Yan did not swallow it, but preserved it intact. Little guy, after a while, a man came slowly. Senior Longling. Seeing this, Xiao Yan slowly got up and smiled at him. I have to go and find out about the Demon of Light. Haishan Longling said earnestly. Originally this time, I came out to bring you back to the demon world to break the Master's seal, but the matter of Lord Demon of Light is imminent. This is a demon pill. When you handle the matter in your hands and crush it, I will personally smash the void and go to pick you up. Haishan Longling knew that Xiao Yan also had a lot of things to do at this time. So he didn't force Xiao Yan, just because he had a lot of time on hand, so he simply put the cracking of the seal aside. Starter, N. Xiao Yan gently took the dark green demon pill and carefully put it away. There will be an appointment later. Seeing Xiao Yan's appearance like this, the black dragon wolf suddenly turned into a meteor and disappeared completely here. From that appearance, it seemed that he went to inspect the Demon of Light. Crack. With a sound, as the Heisha dragon wolf left, a void above Xiao Yan's pavilion suddenly shattered, and a handsome man also emerged. New 81 Chinese website updates the fastest mobile terminal. HTTPS skeptical smiley face, we should go, you. The Soul Eater looked at Xiao Yan in front of him, and said lovingly. This time, if it wasn't for Xiao Yan, I'm afraid Soul Eater's fate would be in jeopardy. Teacher, I won't go back with you this time. I want to go back to Do Di continent. Xiao Yan said solemnly. Now that the trip to the ghost world is over, Xiao Yan's strength has also made great progress, so it is time to start doing things about Btth continent and Zuner. A good man is determined to be in all directions, but remember, if you need it, all the power of Soul Eater will be at your disposal. And at any time, we welcome you home. Soul Eater's warm voice shook Xiao Yan's heart. Thank you, teacher. Xiao Yan couldn't help but muttered with a sore nose. This is the Qi-Du-inducing Soul Cup. I can't use it anymore. I hope it can help you. No need to give it away, let's go. The Lord of Soul Eater left the mysterious treasure behind, and immediately disappeared here with a big wave of his hand. Crash! At this moment, an incomparably huge ship suddenly surged, which was obviously a harbinger of the many powerhouses in the soul-devouring domain returning to the soul-devouring domain. Now, as the Lord of Soul Eater steps into reincarnation and returns to Soul Eater domain will truly replace Li's soul domain and become the strongest area in the Ghost Realm, but it will also be destroyed by Ghost Realm. The Supreme One in the center noticed that it was not known whether it was a blessing or a curse. Teacher, when I see this little junior brother again, I am afraid that he will grow up to be staggering. Standing on the deck of the ship, Hao Nier said slightly. I think so too, the Soul Eater said with a smile. Nier, after you go back, you should go and end the matter. Do Xian has been repressed in your heart, and you feel sorry for your teacher. The Master of Soul Eater said. Thank you, teacher. Hao Nier heard the words, smiled lightly, and said with peace of mind. As soon as the voice fell, everyone disappeared here. With the departure of the Black Devil Dragon Wolf and the Soul Eater, the Earth Spirit Academy also became empty, with only Xiao Yan left and the huge force named 10,000 Fire Sect that Xiao Yan worked so hard to form. At the core of Li's soul domain, in the temple. Princess, now Li's soul domain has been completely mastered by us. The Lord of Li's soul has been infiltrated into the forest of shadows and souls. With your reincarnation restriction, he will never be able to step out of the forest of shadows and souls. The old man said respectfully. How are the people in Soul Eater domain? Qifei asked, sitting quietly. They have all left in the past few days, only Xiao Yan is left. Uncle said, come here, tell Xiao Yan to let him leave with the 10,000 Fire Sect behind him. This war is completely over. We have to take a good rest and prepare to face the foreign evil race. After a while, Qifei waved his hand. Road, Princess, Myriad Fire Sect is also a powerful force. If this is the case, wouldn't it be cheap for Xiao Yan? Hearing Qifei's words, Bo Lao and other senior officials couldn't help but said in pain. Do you really think that I am afraid of Xiao Yan just by being a Soul Eater? Behind him, there are many supreme powers supporting him. There is no need to discuss this matter again. As soon as the voice fell, calm was returning to here. Forget it, let's revive Yingying first. In the evening, Xiao Yan just got up from the pavilion and thought in his mind. This is a good way, and I have the spatial coordinates of the place where she was born. Listening to Xiao Yan's words, Xiao Sensheng, who was hidden in his body, said. Senior's words are true? Xiao Yan heard the words, his pupils scattered with excitement. Now that Acacia and Broken Enteritis is in hand, recovery is just around the corner, but the most difficult thing is the spatial coordinates of the place where she was born. How can I know that Xiao Sensheng actually knows? God really helped me. Originally they were also part of our Xiao clan, it's a pity. You'd better finish your affairs here first, and I can take you directly to where you are in a while. But where is the end? I'm afraid I can only leave, because the other 9 people in the 10 Temple Yan Luo are still sleeping, and rashly staying on you will only bring you death. Xiao Sensheng said with concern. Okay. Xiao Yan agreed, and immediately went to the 10,000 Fire Sect. Sir Xiao Yan is really a hero. He just came to Wan Huo Sect, but found that the place has been completely renewed. Huiyan and his team of high-level executives surrounded the hall and laughed. Everyone, I'm here this time to take the 10,000 Fire Sect out of here and go to Btth continent. Xiao Yan didn't beat around the bush and spoke directly. Ha ha ha. Sir, I'm just waiting for your words. All the members of the Wanwo sect are willing to be adults, go through fire and water, and do whatever you want. A senior executive said with high emotions. Sir, we are ready to go at any time, and we have the space-time channel provided by the Dean of the Spiritual Academy to go to Btth continent. The time required is quite short. Sect Master Woi said with a smile. No hurry, Wait for me for a few days, I still have something to do. Xiao Yan was relieved when he heard the words. Since the ghost world has completely ended, there is no need to stay here. Tomorrow, we will go to the birthplace of Mu Yingying, and the road to resurrection is right in front of you. Opening parenthesis, closing parenthesis.